We're going to whoop some ass, but we need to make sure we're competing with the top of the conference. That's the tension that we're all feeling. Welcome back to UCLA Football TV, hosted by West 739. You guys already know the deal. I'm not going to hold you. Let's jump right in. We got to talk about this. The way recruiting works in the Big Ten, it's not subtle. You look across the street and the numbers hit you right away. USC sits with a blue chip rating above 60%. Ohio State above 60%. Oregon, they pushing close to 70%. Michigan, they're above 40%. Those programs recruit elite talent every single recruiting cycle. 4-star players, 5-star players, national pipelines. And you guessed it, that NIL money, that gives recruits another reason to pick up the phone when those schools call. That's what recruiting is in the Big Ten. That's what it looks like. And UCLA is stepping directly into it. We're here and we're not going nowhere. Now, here's the reality that has some Bruin fans uncomfortable right now. The current UCLA recruiting class sits 64th nationally. Inside our conference, we're ranked 15th. The class rating sits at 85.85. Yeah, we should be a little bit satisfied with that. It could be worse. I mean, thank God Bob Chesney came over here and did his thing with the transfer portal, bringing in all those good players. That's definitely going to help us. Recruiting, we definitely have to lock in and see what happens moving forward. We do have 18 commits in this class. Unfortunately, the class currently contains 0 blue chip recruits. I hear it now. Wes, I'll take a 3-star. They play hard. You know what? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I will take a 3-star because they play hard. But I don't know if we're just programmed to accept 3 stars because that's what we get 9 out of 10 times. It could be the case. If you came up to me and you deleted the college and said, do you want a 3-star or a 4 or 5-star? You answer that question. We got no 4-star players, no 5-star players. Hence why we made the change and why we should all be excited about the fact that Bob Chesney brought over his entire staff to make shit happen. And we all can't wait till it does. Of course, the reaction from the fans is predictable, right? People see those numbers and they start asking questions. Are the Bruins falling behind? Is UCLA recruiting at a level that can compete inside this conference? Is this the strategy or a limitation? Because when you step into a conference where Ohio State, Oregon, and USC are stacking elite talent like that, every recruiting class becomes part of a much bigger conversation, family. Now, before we jump to conclusions, I need you guys to relax. Year 1, Bob Chesney. This is the beginning of a new era. We need to slow this down and actually look at what UCLA is building. Because recruiting rankings by themselves, they don't tell the whole story. How the roster is built, it matters. What positions are being targeted, what types of athletes are being prioritized, what physical traits show up in the class. And when you look at the Bruins' current class, one pattern jumps off the screen: the trenches. This class is built in the trenches. Let me say that again. This class clearly built around the line of scrimmage players. And that matters because all I talk about is the trenches. Bob Chesney is on to something. He knows where to start. Got me excited just thinking about it. Because that matters in the Big Ten Conference. Because in this conference, it's still defined by what happens up front. In the Pac-12 Conference, it was, you could pass your way out of trouble. Get you some fast receivers and a running quarterback, you'll be all right. But not in this conference, the trenches. You want to compete in this conference? You better have offensive linemen who can move people. You better have defensive linemen who can lock in against the run. Tight ends who can block and stretch the field. That's the league that we're playing in right now. And when you look at this UCLA class, the philosophy shows up immediately. Start with the offensive tackle, Quin Buckley, 6'6", 270 pounds. That right there is the frame of a Big Ten tackle. Then you look at Cooper Jaworski on the interior, 6'4", 250 pounds, another interior lineman with real size. Don't forget about Michael McDonald, 6'6", 330 pounds. Family, that's massive. Interior lineman. That's the type of body that eventually plays in the middle of a Big Ten offensive line. Now look at the defensive side. Marcus Almada, 6'4", 280 pounds, interior defensive line frame. That's a big dude. That's the type of frame that can hold up and stop the run inside the Big Ten Conference. Don't forget about our tight end, Camden Jensen, 6'7", 230 pounds. And that's a tight end, family. That's a big body tight end right there. In this conference, tight ends are not just wide receivers. They're blockers, edge setters in the run game, part of the physical identity of the offensive line. So when you step back and look at this class through that lens, you can see the pattern clearly that I'm talking about. UCLA is building the type of players that we're going to need when we go up against teams like Ohio State in a physical conference like this. And that tells you something about the strategy being implemented by head coach Bob Chesney and director of player personnel Stacy Ford. They understand what this conference demands, because the Big Ten will expose you quickly if your roster is not built for the trenches. Now, that right there is the other side of the conversation that fans are having, because when you compare UCLA recruiting numbers to the top of this conference, the gap is still there. Oregon's estimated NIL average sits around $231,000 per player. That's probably why they got that 70% rating. USC around $210,000. Ohio State around $156,000. UCLA's estimated NIL average sits around $15,000 per player. When you hear the numbers out loud, it kind of puts things in perspective, because when you're watching college football shows or you're following college football and you see USC get all of these recruits and Oregon pulling all of these good players and Ohio State looking like a pro team, that's when you start saying to yourself, is UCLA doing enough? I believe they are. I believe that we're starting late. I do believe that we're picking up steam. And that's a significant difference when it comes to NIL. NIL is one of the biggest drivers when it comes to recruiting in college football. Players ask about it. Families ask about it. Agents ask about it. It's part of recruiting now. So when fans see those numbers, they start wondering, how the heck is UCLA going to close that gap? Because recruiting today is not just about geography. It's about opportunity, exposure, development, and increasingly money. But there's one thing about this class that I haven't brought up. And this is the most important thing. And I need you guys to understand that. 63% of the commits come from California. 63. That means the Bruins are still leaning heavily when it comes to recruiting inside of California. That's always been part of UCLA's identity. California produces a huge amount of football talent. Historically, UCLA has recruited this state heavily. The program is definitely not ignoring California. We're not ignoring national recruiting either. But it's important to know that we're still prioritizing the West Coast. Now that strategy, it has advantages. Local relationships, getting to know high school programs, players that's already comfortable with this region. But it also has limits, because the Big Ten, they recruit nationally. What that means is they go get the best players. Ohio State recruits nationally. Oregon recruits nationally. USC, nationally. Michigan, same thing. These programs pull players from everywhere. So that means if they're getting all the good players from California, hence why we always get the 3 stars. You see how I double backed right there, family? So the question UCLA fans keep asking is simple, including myself. Is the Bruins' current strategy building a foundation, or are we falling behind a little bit? Because there's 2 ways to interpret this recruiting picture. One is saying UCLA is building the foundation first. They're starting with the trenches, building offensive line depth. They're creating the physical structure required to compete inside the Big Ten Conference. It's year 3. Then we're going to elevate these recruiting classes once the system is established. That's definitely a local strategy. A lot of programs start by building out the lines first, but the other interpretation is the one that makes fans nervous. What if the recruiting profile is the ceiling? What if we can only get 3 stars? What if it's not the floor? What if UCLA struggles to attract blue chip recruits while competing against programs with massive NIL resources? That's the tension in the conversation, because blue chip talent still drives the championship roster. Look at the programs that compete for the national titles consistently. I'm not talking about teams like Indiana, even though Indiana did an amazing job. Georgia, Alabama, Michigan. They stack 4 and 5-star players across the roster. Development matters too. Because if you're getting these players and you're not developing them properly, they're going to leave. I keep saying elite talent still matters. Right now, UCLA class has 0% blue chip players. And that number is what grabs attention. But here's the part that often gets lost in the recruiting conversation. Development can change the story. Not every 3-star player stays a 3-star player. The strength program will definitely transform their bodies. Coaching, developing the proper technique. Players grow inside systems. Some of the best players in college football were not elite recruits coming out of high school. Now, this is getting your attention because us as UCLA fans, this is the route we normally take 100% of the time. We build out our players, and it usually works. I'm just locking in with you guys saying that we need to start getting 5 and 4-star players. Our 3-star players, they do become elite through development. That's where coaching matters. That's where roster building matters. And that's where Bob Chesney philosophy becomes important. Because if UCLA is going to close the gap when it comes to talent inside this conference, development has to be a part of the equation. The Bruins have to turn 3-star recruits into productivity. They got to be productive in the Big Ten. They have to build depth across the offensive line. They have to rotate defensive linemen who can survive physical demands inside this conference. Because once conference play begin, run games, they're going to test your front. The pass rush, they're going to test your offensive tackles. And I can't wait till the day to where we sit back and we're doing the exact same thing to them. And that's the reality of this conference. And that's why trench recruiting matters so much. When you watch Big Ten football in November, the teams that win control the line of scrimmage. They run the ball. They stop the run. They play a physical kind of grind, kind of season and style. That's what UCLA is trying to build. Now, that doesn't mean the Bruins can ignore 5 and 4-star recruits forever. Eventually, the program will have to land a couple of elite recruits. That's why I talk so highly about Nico. I mean, the last 5-star quarterback we had, I think it was Josh Rosen. Someone check me in the comments. Was it Josh Rosen? We have to start landing elite edge rushers, playmakers. Those players change games. But building out the offensive and the defensive lines first, that's definitely how this program is going to stabilize the roster. And stability matters, period, for any college football team. You win when you have it. You don't win when you don't. Because this schedule, it looks soft on paper, but I'm telling you, I'm not worried about it. I said I think we're going to win 9 games. But it's still an unforgiving schedule just based on the travel. Week after week, physical teams, overtime. Depth becomes the difference. Now think about where UCLA sits inside this transition. The Bruins are still early in the Big Ten era. I'm excited about that because we can kind of lock Bob Chesney into us beginning the Big Ten era together with him. Recruiting pipelines, they're still developing. Relationships in new regions are still growing. NIL setups are still evolving. This transition is not finished yet, family. And that's why the next few recruiting cycles will matter a lot. If we can build out the defensive and the offensive lines and then begin adding blue chip talent around that, things is going to change quickly. But if that gap keep widening, we're going to have to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. We're going to whoop some ass, but we need to make sure we're competing with the top of the conference. That's the tension that we're all feeling. That's what we're kind of debating right now. Is this the class that starts a long-term build, or is this a sign the program still has a lot of ground to make up? Because recruiting momentum shapes the future of a program. The players that sign, they're going to become the depth chart 2 or 3 years from now. All those recruits and those freshmen that I just told you about, they're going to be the ones protecting the quarterback. They're going to be the ones on the defensive line stopping the run. The tight ends are going to be setting the edge. That's the foundation of the team. And that's why this class matters. Not because of where it ranks today, but because of what it shows about the direction of the program. Right now, that direction appears clear to me. Build the trenches, build size, bring in people capable of playing Big Ten football. That's the strategy. This next question is whether that strategy eventually attracts higher end talent. Because when UCLA starts landing blue chip recruits on top of that foundation, things change fast. And that's when we begin looking like a true contender inside the conference. Until then, I'll keep watching the recruiting rankings. Whether I want to or not, I'm going to always compare classes. I'm going to always debate whether the Bruins are closing the gap. Because inside the conference, recruiting is a long game. Programs build rosters over multiple cycles. And we will lose some to the transfer portal. A lot of people feel like the transfer portal should be the number one priority. I feel like it should be a part of the system. Recruiting, to me, still needs to be the number one priority. Because as the momentum starts to build, I can really see this program turning the corner as far as recruiting big time talent. But the good thing about it is UCLA is still early in that process. But the structure of this class, it tells you something important. The Bruins understand what kind of football this conference demands. Now, the question is how quickly they elevate the talent level within that structure. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, it's 100% free. If you bleed that blue and gold, you need to be rocking with me. UCLA Football TV hosted by West 739. Fours up.